Okay, so today we're going to do something different. Okay, we're going to discuss about the Skarner, the new champion that is going to be releasing into the PvE. And I must say that this is probably one of the best reworks I've seen, but there's two big issues I have with it, and as I talk about his abilities and while I showcase his attacks and everything, I'm going to give a tip to something that I don't see people doing in PvE. Almost anyone's doing. Maybe Skarner mains will start doing it eventually. And then I will kind of showcase why I think the champion is really good, but also has really big weaknesses, and what are those weaknesses and strengths. Um, so to start off, we're gonna discuss his passive. Skarner has a 3-hit passive that works not only with his auto attacks, but also with his Q and ultimate. So every 3 hits of this passive, you'll shred enemies' max HP between 7 and 12%, which is quite a lot. It doesn't say for how long it will be capped per individual, because I imagine that this, you can't permanently stack 3 stacks on champions. So you most likely will be able to activate this passive. It will go on a cooldown per target, and then it will go back up again, something akin to Braum, for example. Still, the numbers are really good. Starting at 7 and going up to 12% with levels means that will be pretty much effective throughout the entirety of the game, because it's way too much health that you remove from other tanks, so it can work really well again as a pure tank yourself. You're always doing this percentage health damage style of game. Having it stacked with not only your auto attacks but your Q makes it a lot more a lot easier to actively proc, especially with your ultimate as well. It makes it really easy to like genuinely proc and just apply the damage as easily as possible. Because, for example, with Braum, you can never really go on a solo lane with him because it's so difficult to actively trigger that passive. This being mostly AoE abilities, being just 3 attacks on a champion that can relatively easily reach enemies, is going to be pretty good. Next up, I want to discuss this Q, because I think he has a lot of things going for him with this Q. And there's something I noticed when I was reading the patch and the way the ability functions that I don't think people utilizing a lot. So I'm also going to discuss a bit about the numbers that we're going to show on the screen. But for now, Q is basically you pick up a rock, your next 2 auto attacks deal extra damage, and the third one, you hit them with the rock. You can also pick up the rock and just throw the rock if you recast it. When picking up the rock, you get 25 attack speed, which is pretty nice to confirm your auto attacks hit, so you can then slam the rock much easily. But the weird thing about this ability is that it scales with percent bonus health that you have. And I can't remember the last champion that had this kind of passive where it kind of scaled off your health and how much tanky you were towards your damage. I think Cho'Gath has it. And usually these abilities are really powerful. Usually tanks that scale with the thing they want to build are extremely dangerous and powerful, because as they build towards those items, it becomes quite unsustainable to like fight them normally. And the tip that I have for this ability, which is really interesting, is that the way this ability works is like you auto attack twice and then you throw the rock. It will be automatic through the auto attack, or you can just pick up the rock and at any point throw it out. It will go in a straight line, goes over terrain. It's very simple. The thing is, if you do the auto attacks and slam the rock, you will deal 10 plus 6% bonus physical damage per attack, and then the boulder will do an additional 12% max health damage. It's kind of okay. So the idea that I had was to like, I was reading it again and I kind of realized that I made a mistake about this. So on his final attack, when he sends out the boulder, it takes away 12% max health physical damage of the opponents. My idea was, oh, if I send out the rock, you actually get extra damage, but no, it still counts as the auto attack's empowerment for each auto attack that you give. It's fine. You still, best thing you can still do is 2 auto attacks and release Q. In this way, you're basically auto canceling. Since you send out the Q anyway, the enemies are slowed. So it's guaranteed to hit unless you're playing like against a Vayne, Katarina, Castellan. Against those, do try to auto attack. But if you're playing against like something like a Darius, another tank that is very slow, mostly immobile champions or things that don't, you know, easily jump out of the way, doing auto and clicking Q again to send the rock will come out a lot faster and put your abilities on a shorter cooldown. In terms of scaling on this ability, it's kind of insane. The max health damage is way too high for something that has a scaling on HP, and the cooldown of it is pretty decent. You're not going to be able to really spam it at the early game, but it clearly has the same energy that he had before, where if you reach a certain point of what's it called, CDR, of ability haste, you're gonna be almost impossible to stop. All his abilities go down to 7 and 6 cooldown, static. So if you get a lot of haste, which most tank items do have, and most tank items that he wants to build do have, he's just gonna be a really big monster. He's gonna be extremely difficult to deal with. And I want to show you some of the examples that of how he's utilizing this ability, because this ability, since it does use his auto attacks, it does proc his passive. So as you can see, it's doing the AoE, and the last one guarantees a slow. So if you want to maximize this, you get close to your opponent, you W, because W is a AoE slow, you auto attack once, auto attack twice, send out the rock, as it will give you another slow. Okay, so this is W. W is very, very, very simple. Slams the ground, gains a shield, slows enemies. Quite as simple as it can be. I do want to talk about something about his W, where his shield is scaling off your max HP. So it's always going to be 8% of your total health, which honestly is incredibly good, and it will get better as the game goes on. And this ability should be maxed second. I understand that people must really like the E, and it's going to be really, flashy, because it's a new ability and everyone's talking about it. But actively, maxing Q first is definitely the way. Maxing W second is the best way. It increases your damage on the slam, increases the slow that is provided, and reduces the cooldown up to 6 seconds. So you're basically going to perma-spam W in fights. It's going to be ridiculous. There's not much real big skill towards how you want to play with this ability. It's just more, if you need a shield, you need to slow enemies, boop, and you're done. Okay, let's talk about his E. He dashes sort of like Nunu. That's basically the idea, but he can go through terrain, and if he touches someone, he can shove them, and he suppresses them, and then he can push them into a wall to stun and slow them. It stuns for 1.5 seconds, and you can recast the ability to end the charge faster in case you desire it. But as you can see, it's very simple. It's just basically Nunu. Enemies do have a big indicator towards that Skarner is coming through a wall, so it's going to be relatively simple to see. It's relatively similar to Kane in his way of showing that he's in near a wall, but it should be relatively easier to maneuver. Another thing, his control over the way he moves through terrain is not like Kane's whatsoever. So he won't have that ability to dodge and weave as, normally Kane does. And that is a really big problem for him, because he can be CC'd out of his movement. And this might not seem that big, might not seem that bad, but this is his biggest fault as a champion. So Skarner has always been a champion that is very reliant on getting near people and on top of them. And I think this iteration is it has more tools to maneuver not being able to get on top of people, especially with being able to throw your rock to slow them. But in essence, it's kind of the same idea, where is very natural counterplay is to just play champions that do not allow his engagement. So I think Lysandra here is really good. John is going to be incredible. Thresh is going to be incredible. Um, I don't think champions that can slow will do a lot. I don't know if he's immune to slows. He might be. It doesn't really say. But with the notion that he's not really what's it called? Immune to slows, disruption is going to be key. And understanding that this is one of his bigger counterplays to just maneuver the champion is really big. Now you can say, oh, but CC is the answer to everything. And that's kind of true, but not really. Because like you can say, oh, to stop a Xerath, I'm gonna CC him. The man's like in Narnia. You can't really target him. With Skarner, his main priority is to get on top of you, and he doesn't really have ways to go outside of that battle. So when he engages, it's like a full commit. There's no way he's gonna run away. The only thing you need to be really careful of, maintain distance while fighting him. Because you don't want to get touched by the E, you don't want to get slowed, because if you get slowed, you're gonna get hit with the ultimate. So the best thing you can genuinely do when facing a Skarner, keep your distance, have at least one part of your CC ready and available to just maneuver out of his ability. And if you're playing support, do stay near your carries to maneuver it as best as you can to slow down the opposition as much as you can. Now, for his ultimate, I think everyone's seeing this. Everyone's, has been talking about it ever since it came out. He now can target up to 3 players with his ultimate, but it is a skill shot. I don't think many things changed from how he was used before. I think now it's a bit easier to actively dodge it, and there's actually a lot of counterplay to it. But I do think it's also easier to land, because you not only have a little bit more range, you actually have a little bit more utility towards catching more than one person. Now, it's still relatively difficult to land this on multiple people, unless they like everyone's clumped up together and you just landed a W. That's the most obvious way. But in essence, I think his ultimate is not something we really need to discuss. I think it's very simple towards like how to beat it and what to use. It's still susceptible to QSS. He's very weak to QSS, but now you don't really like have to build it because he's in the game, which I think is really good. Him getting movement speed is also really nice. I do wonder, because I haven't seen like old Skarner mains use him, if his ability to turn around still works. So what do you want to do? Like in live Skarner, the Skarner that is like out right now, when you impale someone with his ultimate, you want to drag it, and then as the ultimate is ending, you want to like walk in the direction of your opponent, so Skarner flips and he turns around to make the target you're pushing be as far away from his team as possible. I don't know if this works here, because I don't think he moves. Okay, he does move forward, so it doesn't work anymore. So that skill expression is not in the game anymore, which I think is kind of sad, but I do believe it would have been a bit too broken. And the main way you want to use this ultimate is like you want to guarantee CC and then actually catch people. You don't want to like send this out without like any prior CC being used. You want to at least slow them at the very least and then try to use your ability. While in ultimate, you can cast your W, which is really big. Because as you're pulling, as you're sending, if you cast WQ, it will basically slow them and guarantee a full combo of yours, which is incredibly good for what's it called? For CC maxing towards your opponents. In terms of what I believe what Skarner is going to be, with these numbers, I think is going to be a problem. I think they do have to tweak a lot of his numbers. They're way too high, especially given that he is playing with so much health, it makes his builds really um really optimized very easily. You won't be thinking too much about what items he kind of wants to build. You'll most likely just focus on how to use his abilities. And doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, but it does create a problem that he's like too good at what he does immediately off the bat. As soon as he gets released, he's going to be too good. Um, and that's something I don't want to happen. I don't want to have it be another Smolder, another what's it called? Another Cassante, you know? I feel like he has a lot of potential to just be normal. And I think his HP scalings are a bit too high for him to be like a regular champion. Um with that in mind, I love this rework. I think it's one of the best Riot has done, and it keeps the true identity of the champion. He's looking thick. I do worry about how his kit is going to be played if his numbers don't change. I think he's way too oppressive and way too strong. I am really hoping that he'll become, you know, more streamlined soon. Like, my idea is change the HP progression on Q to be 80, and it should, already be much better. I think you can keep the HP shred on E and the value of HP on W, but changing Q to AD will at least make it so if he goes full tank, it's not impossible to beat. I know Crit did get a significant buff recently, but I don't think it's enough to kind of deal with this kind of champion. In the meantime, I think everyone's going to see a lot of Skarner montages. Everyone's going to use them a lot in PBE. It's been a rework that everyone is really excited for, but something I want to keep everyone's in mind is please do not already expect them to be the best champion in the game. Relax, we're in PBE. Most players that you're seeing videos of are challengers or high MMR players playing in a server that has no matchmaking. They're gonna stomp. They're gonna do things that are like unbelievable. They make no sense. I saw a Skarner the other day with a hard steel doing 700 damage per auto attack. That's not something that's gonna happen in your game, and you don't need to be afraid of that. He's not gonna be insane. What I'm saying here is he's strong. As a normal build, at a normal rate, in a normal game, ranked at mid to high levels of MMR, he is strong. People are definitely going to use him. But I don't think he's as oppressive or powerful as people are like trying to sell him in the videos that they've been showing. And with that being said, I think he's going to be really fun. I think especially on top jungle, he's going to be insanely powerful. And he might have a still a niche in support. It could be tried. I don't think he's going to do it, but it could be interesting. I think he still has like gigantic counters. Again, his movement being so easily stopped is basically going to force him most of the time to run ghosts. Once everything's settled, and I do also believe that although his E is much faster than I originally imagined, his weakness to disruption is way too big. Like, once his E is cancelled, it goes on full cooldown and he just cannot move for the rest of the game. He's way too slow. That is his main weakness, and I think people that can exploit that on release are going to increase their LP significantly. Because understanding some new champions counters and how to deal with it, the sooner the better, because it's going to be novelty. When he comes out, everyone's going to play him. So if you already have a plan of attack against it, you're going to do a lot better than anyone else. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was fun. I hope you learned a bit about the new Skarner. I'm still really excited to see what players are going to do with him. But I don't think he's going to be a powerhouse as people are talking about. And if you disagree, leave a comment. Tell me why you think I'm wrong and why you believe he's actually going to be the bane of our next existence. He's gonna be Release Smolder all over again. He's gonna be the new Cassante. I think he's fine. I think he's okay. I think he's strong, but he has clear weaknesses that people can really exploit. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something with this. And I'll see you guys in the next one, where we're gonna do some patch notes. Bye bye!